Good morning and welcome to the webinar. My name is Tracy Lawson and I am a broker advisor with Cornerstone. I am joined today by Allegra Prewitt and Laura Hawkins of Consoliplex. Before we turn the presentation over to Laura and Allegra, there are a few housekeeping items that I wanted to cover. Your lines will be muted during the presentation, so should you have any questions, please enter those questions in the question box and we will address those at the end of the presentation. If after the presentation you do have additional questions, please do not hesitate to contact your Cornerstone broker advisor. Don't forget to follow Cornerstone on social media and subscribe to our weekly Monday Minute for the latest carrier, industry, and Cornerstone news. I am excited to announce that Cornerstone has rolled out their 2022 Broker Cash Incentive Program. Brokers must register in order to be eligible to participate in the program, and you can find full incentive details and the registration link on Cornerstone's website. With that being said, I would like to throw out a congratulations to all of our 2021 qualifiers. Those cash incentives, if you have not already received those, are in the process of being delivered. So great job to those of you that did qualify. Never miss a webinar. All of our webinars, including this one, are available 24/7 on Cornerstone's website in the Resource Center. This particular webinar will be uploaded and available on the Resource Center by the end of business tomorrow. With that being said, Laura, Allegra, I will go ahead and turn things over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let me just get this presentation shared.
Are you going to do it, Laura, or is Allegra going to?
It will be me.
Okay. All right. Okay, you should be able to pull up your screen now.
Okay, perfect. Can you all see my screen? Let's see, I'm trying to make sure I have more than one monitor, so I want to make sure that I'm...
Yeah, so if you go to the full screen again.
Yeah.
And then at the top it says display settings.
Okay, right, and then does that look
there you go.
Okay? Okay, great. Yep. Okay, good morning. I am Laura Hawkins. I'm a project manager for Consoliplex, and I have Allegra here also. And we're just going to go ahead and talk through MEWA.io. So I'll be covering the relationships between the players involved, MEWA.io, with the carriers, brokers, and employers, and then go through the use cases that we use MEWA.io for. So MEWA.io is a digital MEWA management system. It's owned by Reform Labs, and we use it for 3 use cases. The ARC form, which SOCA is doing right now, continuation, and Medicare small employer exception requests. So when we look at the relationships, there really is no direct relationship between the carrier and MEWA.io. We use MEWA.io as a tool to collect data that the carrier doesn't have and that we need for different applications. And in some cases, we share some of that information back with the carrier, but the carrier and MEWA.io don't have a direct relationship at all. The brokers and employers each have a relationship with MEWA.io in that they are going to get notifications when there's a MEWA.io event, and then they each have a MEWA.io portal that they'll be able to use to see the actions in MEWA.io. So the brokers will have the chance to see all of their employers, and then obviously the employers, it's just personalized for their particular group.
Hey Laura, real quick, this is Tracy. And I apologize, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. So this MEWA.io relationship, that applies to all of your Anthem SOCA MEWA groups as well as your Anthem Kentucky Chamber Advantage MEWA groups. So that's where you will see the MEWA.io relationship come into play.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's good clarification. Okay, so looking at the broker broker actions and notifications a little bit more. Whenever the groups are contacted by MEWA.io to complete an action, the brokers are notified. It's just an FYI. However, we encourage brokers to create a MEWA.io broker portal account. And in this, they'll be able to manage their team. They can view status of employer requests. They can complete employer requests in most cases, which I'll go through in the use case examples. They can change their employer contacts, and then they can also invite employers to manage their accounts. So usually the brokers and employers are automatically linked, but if for some reason a broker goes into their broker portal and they see that one of their MEWA groups isn't listed in their employer list, then they can just initiate that action and make that link from their broker portal account. And then moving on to the employer relationships, relationship with MEWA.io. So as soon as an employer joins the plan, they're going to get a welcome email from MEWA.io. It's going to talk about the system, get them familiar with MEWA.io, so in the future when there is a MEWA event, it's not foreign to them. So this welcome email will say, this is your continuation status. Please verify if you're COBRA or state continuation. It gives them FAQ about continuation. And then they also, as an employer, can link to their broker. So we want to give people the best chance to get those broker-employer relationships set up so that when the broker goes into their broker portal, they can act on behalf of their employers and they'll have the best visibility. So the broker has the ability to make that link, and then also so does the employer. So as I mentioned, the employer has the chance to have a MEWA.io employer portal, and they will get notifications and requests whenever there's a specific event, so ARC, termination, or Medicare. Within the MEWA.io employer portal, they can complete requests, they can edit their continuation status, change their employer contacts, or make that link. Also, the link with their broker. Also, they'll be able to see copies of whatever actions they've done in MEWA.io. If they've signed documents, that'll be saved in a document library on their employer portal. Any questions so far? All right.
No questions yet.
Okay, great. Okay, we'll go into the 3 use cases of MEWA.io, and we'll focus primarily on the ARC collection because that is what's current for SOCA. So as far as ARC goes, it lasts 6 weeks, about 30 business days. We use the data collected to fill the Form 5500 SF. And this is an example of the broker and employer notifications. So the brokers will get a notification saying, hey, this is the ARC collection period for this plan. Here are your employers that are going to be contacted. And that goes out about a week before the collection period starts. And then the employers will get an email when the collection period starts, giving them a link to complete their ARC form. Now, in this case for ARC, the brokers can complete on behalf of their groups if they're linked in the broker portal. And if there is a non-response, then there is a series of reminders. And if there's still not a response for the ARC process, then we will fill the 5500 with just the carrier data that we have. And in some cases, that's incomplete. And so really to get the best 5500 SF and the most accurate one, we ask that the ARC form is completed. Now, since we're doing the ARC right now, I'm going to get out of this presentation for a minute and just show you what an ARC form looks like. Hang on a second. All right, can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll just walk through it and see an example here. So first off, this is an example of what a broker might see for their different groups. You'll be able to see the status. And then if you come over here, on the side, you can do complete request, and then it'll open up to the ARC form for a particular group. So this is just an example, but the first question is, are you a sole proprietor, government entity, church, or none of these? And we have to delineate this because the filing requirements are different based on what the status is here. So sole proprietor, if they answer yes, we'll have a follow-up question, yes or no, do you have any employees? If no, then they're done at that point. They don't need to fill out the form, the rest of the ARC form. If they do, yes, then they will have to fill it out, even if the Form 5500 won't be filled on their behalf. The government entity and church are the same thing in that we don't need to fill the 5500 on their file the 5500 on their behalf, but they do need to complete the ARC form. So they'll get this text saying they won't have a 5500 filed, but they still need to do the form. And then down here, none of these would just be your typical group. So the nice thing about the ARC form is that every one of these fields has a help text. So if you click on them, it'll have a little explanation about what they're looking for. In this case, the group or the broker would be working off of the most recent wage and tax form. And there is some help text here. If you don't have a wage and tax, these are other forms you can use. So it's the first one will be total eligible employees, current employees, so full-time, part-time, and seasonal employees as of today, employees enrolled in the medical plan, employees with waivers, so that would be spousal coverage or Medicare, and then continuants that are on COBRA or state continuation. This grayed out field is the net eligible employees. This is auto-calculated, but if you were to click on it, it would show the formula that's used to make that calculation. And then same thing with the participation rate. So auto-calculated, but you have a nice explanation for how this number was calculated. The next field is for state continuation versus COBRA. So folks can click on that, and then there's an explanation here. So if you have greater than 20 or 20 or more, you're subject to COBRA. Otherwise, a smaller group would have state continuation. The Medicare status box will default to secondary, but if a group has done the small employer exception and been approved for that, then they can change it to primary. And then finally, contribution rate. So their percentage paid by employer. And that is so that is it as far as the ARC form goes for SOCA. Some of the plans do require supporting documentation, but in this case, that's not something that we require for SOCA. This is just an example, so it has it in there as a point of discussion. But does anyone have any questions about the form itself before I move on?
I am not
Okay.
seeing any questions on the form itself. There are a couple other questions if this is a good stopping point. So there's a question asking, is the ARC only for Ohio and not Kentucky MEWA? And yes, it is for the SOCA MEWA plan only. And then Laura, I had a couple questions for you going back to the notices that have gone out to the brokers and the clients. So I'm assuming because we're in that collection period that all of those groups and all of those brokers have been notified of that process at this point. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And then
go ahead.
And then I was going to say for the non-responses, you indicated that there are reminders that go out. Do those reminders go out to the groups only, or are the brokers also included on those reminders?
Right, the brokers will get those reminders also. They will go out to the broker after 3 weeks of collection. They'll go out once a week on Mondays. So I'd have to look. I don't think we're there yet for SOCA. I have to look at the schedule, but after the collection has been going for 3 weeks, the brokers will get will get a reminder for whatever groups that haven't completed it, starting on every Monday after 3 weeks.
Perfect.
All right, so I'll just, that's all you have? Okay.
Yes.
Great. So I'll keep going through the use cases of MEWA IO. So we talked about ARC. And then the other two applications for MEWA IO would be termination validation and Medicare. So for termination validations, this is sent when an employee terminates from the plan and clarifying data is needed. So there are some times when we have all the data we need from the carrier and we can pass that directly to my COBRA plan, the COBRA vendor. But there are other times where we need more information. So when this is the case, the broker will get a notification. That's what you see in the middle there. And then the employer also will get a notification saying, these are your terms, these are the reasons for termination. Yes, please verify this is right, or no, I'll need to make some changes. So that's sent, again, brokers and employers will get that. And brokers can complete on behalf of their groups also for that one. Now, in this case, if there's a non-response for a termination validation, there will be reminders that are sent by MEWA IO. If no response is given, then there is a non-response file that's sent to my COBRA plan, and my COBRA plan will send a letter to the group contact. And then if there's still no response from that, then no state continuation or COBRA letter will be mailed. And then the last use case for MEWA IO is the Medicare small employer exception. So this is sent 30 days before an employee turns 65, and it applies to groups less than 20. The broker will receive a notification saying that MEWA IO is contacting their group, but the employer must complete this. So this is the one case that the employer can't do on behalf of, or the broker can't do on behalf of the employer, because there's a signature needed. And then if there's a non-response on this one, there's a reminder that's sent 30 days after the employee turns 65. And then if still there's no response, then just there's no small employer exemption submitted. And then if you're looking for more information about MEWA IO, MEWA IO has a great knowledge base, and there's a great walkthrough for ARC there. There's an ARC form fields guide. There's an article on how to create your broker account, how to link with your groups. So there's a pretty robust body of knowledge on the MEWA IO knowledge base. And then if you have any other additional questions, our service team at Consoliplex does a great job, and you can reach them at service@consoliplex.com. Any questions otherwise for today?
There are a couple other questions, Laura, that have popped up in the box. So on the ARC process, are all MEWA groups, regardless of a renewal date, being required to complete that process at this time?
So let me check for SOCA. We do have groups that were new. Allegra, can you help me if it's, I can't remember if it's 1-1 or 2-1, if they were newer as of that date. I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Collecting ARC data for all SOCA groups, regardless of renewal.
I don't know if anyone heard that better than me.
Yeah,
I did not hear that.
we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you.
I'm sorry. We are collecting ARC data for
Okay.
all SOCA groups, regardless of renewal date.
Perfect. Is MEWA.io the only way brokers' employers will be notified to complete the ARC form?
Yes.
Scrolling through here, bear with me just a second. When an employer terms through the Anthem employer portal, is the information transferred to the MEWA.io? If not, should the employer be using the .io to make sure these changes? I'm not sure I understand that question, but I will have your broker advisor reach out to you on that one, Sandra. If a spouse is turning 65, does a notification not go out?
Tracy, are you saying that? Yeah.
So if a spouse is turning 65, does a notification go out?
So I'm assuming this is regarding the Medicare exception process. So, and we can double check on this for you, but I believe it's only for the employee, but let us double check on that for you. Another clarification I want to make is that process we currently only do proactively for SOCA. We are not doing it proactively for Kentucky. However, if there is a Kentucky group that would like to apply for the exception, we can definitely assist them, but brokers will not and groups won't receive an automatic email notification via MEWA.io at this time.
Okay. And then the C form, is that found on the MEWA.io website?
I'm sorry, which form was that, Tracy?
The small employer exception for the Medicare primary versus secondary form, the C form.
Sure. So when those invitations are sent or those emails, that form is attached or there's a link to that form within the email that can be downloaded. But if a group is requesting our help outside of receiving that invitation, we can send a form to them to complete.
Perfect. And I think that is all I'm seeing here. Again, if anybody has any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to your broker advisor. And again, the presentation will be loaded on our resource center as well. Laura, did you have anything else to share?
No, I think that's it. Thanks for having us.
Okay, perfect. Well, we appreciate everybody's time this morning. Have a great day.
Thank you, Tracy. Thanks, everyone.
Uh-huh. Bye.